I did want to spend a few minutes that I have to discuss and kind of give you, to a certain extent, kind of a state of the city, or maybe kind of and aim it a little bit more toward the economy. For, gosh, over a year now, we've been dealing with depressed energy prices. And I think because our city is so emotionally attached to the oil and gas industry, there's this immediate sense of semi-depression because we've been through this before. And we know that some people are likely to lose their jobs, and some people are likely to lose a steady income from royalties that they might have been assuming into their annual income. And even if you're not tied to the oil and gas industry, you almost kind of retreat from your free spending habits. And there's a consumer confidence issue, which weighs on the city's ability to collect sales tax. And that just kind of feeds on itself. And before you know it, you've had, a city that had its certain growth trajectory, and suddenly its confidence is down. And it's almost a self-fulfilling prophecy. And we throw out intellectual data like only 3% of our workforce is employed directly in the oil and gas industry. And maybe we feel better about it, but yes, we've diversified, and we know that a lot of the higher paid jobs come from that industry, and then there's spill-off effect. And still it seems like we should, be struggling, and we should be concerned about the future. But when you look around Oklahoma City, it really does look different this time. Seems to me like in the past, in 2008, for instance, when we had oil and gas prices retreat, it seemed like a lot of the construction projects halted too. In other words, if a construction project was about to come out of the ground, it probably didn't come out of the ground. And some projects that had already started stopped in mid-construction. And you're not seeing much of that now. In fact, the construction industry is doing extremely well, and a lot of jobs are being created in the construction industry. We're seeing jobs in aviation. We're seeing jobs grow in biomedical. As recently as November, which was several months into the oil and gas price reduction, I remember looking at data that showed we had more people employed in the Oklahoma City metro than ever before. And so I understand that to a certain extent this emotional tie to the oil and gas industry is real because we make it real, but there really is this sense, I think, intellectually that it is different this time. And all you have to do is take a look at all of the projects that are coming out of the ground. And so in that vein, we prepared a slideshow that kind of shows some of the projects that we are still working on. Now, we're going to start with the government projects, the ones that primarily the city is working on. And the first one up here is Project 180. So how many of you have seen the construction on Park Avenue and wonder when that's finally going to get completed? When you haven't dug up a street in 120 years, it's amazing what you'll find when you get down there. And so this is it's not even a once-in-a-generation thing. This is a once-ever thing. Interesting to me that when we're digging up that street, for instance, and some of the other streets in the central business district, we don't know what's down there. It's like the people that built streets in generations past didn't bother to write anything down or to draw a picture of where they were putting certain things. And so when we're preparing these new streets and we run into something, first of all, we have to figure out what it is, and then we have to figure out if we can take it out, and then we typically might need to bring in a utility company to kind of look at their end of it, and it is a very slow process. But I think it's almost universal that Project 180 has been one of the best things we ever did for this city. It more than anything else has been a visual reminder of how we had designed this city around cars and not people. And it's a great example of how the city looks differently. I can remember trying to cross the street as a pedestrian, 10 years ago. and you push the walk, don't walk sign, and you start walking across those one-way, 5 lanes of road, and you start jogging, and before the end of it, you've completely lost faith in the system, and you're just running to get across the street. And now that we've highly landscaped these streets, we put on-street parking down there, and suddenly, all of a sudden, there's a lot of people walking around downtown Oklahoma City. You can't hardly go out when you don't see not only people walking, but people are jogging, and they're exercising. They're choosing to spend as much time in this urban setting as they possibly can. And don't forget, Project 180 financed the redesign and construction of the Myriad Botanical Gardens, which is as fine of an urban park as you're going to see anywhere. And just a few months ago, won the worldwide ULI competition on best green space, beating out Millennial Park in Chicago as one of the finalists. So that park, the rest of the Project 180 thing, I think has been an extraordinary positive thing for Oklahoma City. It's not quite done yet. When we're through with Park Avenue, we'll be moving over onto Shields in front of the old train station. Now, as you may know, as part of MAPS 3 and part of a federal grant we are refurbishing the old train station to be a multimodal hub going forward. It's a $30 million makeover. But at the same time, we're also going to be redesigning with Project 180 standards one of the most unwalkable streets anywhere, and that is E.K. Gaylord, as it fronts between Reno and a few blocks north. And so, that's an opportunity to take something that was as unwalkable as you can imagine and turn it into a pedestrian hub. So I'm anxious to see how that unfolds as well. Always good to see pictures, though, of Project 180. You see the construction pictures here. These are some actual photos of what it looks like today. Now, doesn't this look better than it did? You see the testament to Gary Brooks there on the left, the First National Center, the Oklahomans building there up front, right here on Sheridan, the Myriad Botanical Gardens Park, picture of the Devon building behind on Sheridan. There's the new parking garage that's near City Hall over on Main Street. Now let's move over to the MAPS 3 projects. We're in one of the more exciting times of MAPS 3, and in this calendar year, you see a lot of construction, and of course, just last week, we opened up the River Sport Rapids and hosted the Olympic trials. I can't tell you how many people have come up to me, and these are people that I cannot imagine I would ever see in a kayak in a whitewater atmosphere, and have said how pleased they are that we constructed this River Sport Rapids. And it almost is, I think, a reminder of the generational aspect of MAPS as a brand, that it is all about preparing a better city for the next generation. And even if a person has absolutely no intent of ever getting in a raft, they're glad that the city constructed it, because it might make a better city for their kid or their grandkid or some generational impact down the line for a relative that they will never meet. Yeah, this was a good idea. Let's have the mayor hold a kayak and stand in front of the Skydance Bridge. I was just surprised I could hold it. And I have yet to go down the river, but I promise it's going to happen soon. This is not me. This is an actual athlete going down the kayak, and this was from the Road to Rio competition. Thank you to the Oklahoman for that photo. Another picture of the tremendous success of the opening weekend. And, I don't know that I ever thought I would be placing Olympic medals around people's necks, but that was a real thrill for Terry and I to be out there Sunday as the Olympians, with tears in their eyes, realized in Oklahoma City that they're going to be representing their country in the U.S. Olympics this summer. It's an emotional experience. We are in full construction mode on the first Senior Wellness Center. It's under construction out far northwest. We're about to start construction very soon on our second Senior Wellness Center, which will be in the south part of the city. We have 2 more of these coming. This is a reminder of the baby boom generation getting older and the demographic shifts that are taking place in our community and every other community out there. The wellness demands going forward are only going to grow. And by getting out in front of this, I really think it's a forward-thinking move by the citizens of Oklahoma City to invest in this type of capital construction. We don't know exactly how these are going to be programmed long-term because we want the people that use it to help determine how to program it. But you can see how people who might want to go exercise or might be in a medical rehab situation might enjoy going to these places. Some people might just want to congregate and play checkers, and that's a good thing too. We're all trying to figure out how we can do better on mental health and try to keep more people active in their older ages. And all of these are reasons to think these MAPS 3 Senior Wellness Centers are going to be a great additions to our city. And it's always good to have MAPS 3 invested outside of the downtown core, out where people live in their neighborhoods. You probably have noticed that construction has begun on the downtown park. You know it's construction because there's just a load of dirt being turned over there over and over again as the utility lines and utility abatements are being made for this 70-acre park that will transform downtown Oklahoma City and give it the green space and the size of a green space that we've never had before. Park scheduled to open in 2018 in phase 1, and I think it's going to be a transformational step forward like we have not seen before in recent years. Another views of MAPS 3, and you can see how it interacts with the downtown skyline. This would be, of course, looking from near I-40 and looking back toward the Devon Tower. It'll have something for everyone. It'll have playgrounds like typical urban parks, but it'll also have green spaces and opportunities to recreate. It'll be inhabited by people who enjoy running and biking and just going outside to read a book. But this will become the city's playground of the future. Notice also how everybody's thin in the future. It's one of my favorite aspects about all the designs I've seen of the park. Obesity has been cured by the time that our park opens in 2018. The streetcar will be becoming a reality here inside of this calendar year. I mentioned earlier when I was talking about Project 180 and the new multimodal hub that's part of MAPS 3 that we're going to be redesigning EK Gaylord. Because we're already going to be tearing up that street, that'll be the first place where you're going to see rail installed for the new streetcar. So in, say, December, I think you'll start to see the first rail go down. We're also, I think, excited to know that our streetcars are currently being constructed inside a plant in northwestern Pennsylvania. And, to actually soon see pictures of them, I think it's going to be another reminder that this really is going to happen. It's going to change public transit as we know it in Oklahoma City and continue this transformation into a more pedestrian-friendly community. Here's the first bike trail we opened with MAPS 3. This was a few months back, and I assure you that the other riders stayed back and allowed me to cross the finish line first to break the ribbon. And this reminds me, in a year in which the world of sports lost one of its icons, Yogi Berra, of a saying that Yogi Berra once is reportedly to have originated. And it applied to the opening of this park because just a few weeks after it opened, I heard it was so crowded that someone said it's so crowded that no one goes there anymore. As you probably know, we are in the final stages of design for our second bike trail that will take us from the river up the I-44 corridor toward Lake Hefner. You'll see construction on that taking place here before the end of the year. The bids will be going out, so the construction on the second trail is going to be taking place, and there's another one after that. Here's my hero, Tom McDaniel, helping me at a ribbon cutting at a sidewalk. How many of you have seen sidewalk construction in Oklahoma City? This one was at Penn and probably about Hefner or Britton. Again, an opportunity for us to connect a neighborhood with a shopping opportunity that had really never been taken place before. We had gone decades building schools and libraries and neighborhoods and never really connecting them. And going in and doing it later is more expensive, but worth it nonetheless. And if you have a sidewalk in your neighborhood, hopefully Tom and I can come and remove the boards when it's finished construction. We are in the concept development for the convention center. This is the most expensive project in MAPS 3 at a budget of around $280 million. It has been sited to go just south of the Chesapeake Energy Arena, and it will front the boulevard. Currently, the designers are looking at how it interacts with the park, which of course would be just across the street looking to the west. How do we deal with potential of sunlight? How do we deal with gatherings that might take place outside? How do we provide windbreaks? What do the meeting rooms look like? Are they glass or are they solid? How do people move about? And how can the park accentuate the convention center and work seamlessly together? And so a lot of the decisions that we make in these design concepts are going to affect the level of success that our convention center ultimately has. So these are important decisions on a building that we hope lasts just as long as our current convention center has lasted, which is now nearly 50 years. A lot of new development taking place, though. This is from the private sector side as we transition, and this is the 499 building along West Sheridan. It's obviously under construction. It's hard to miss if you are over in that part of the area just to the south of City Hall. This is a 25-story building. The bottom 2 floors are of retail and should open up here in less than 2 years, I'm told, and be a significant addition to our skyline. And keep in mind that before the Devon Tower arrived, we hadn't had really any new additions to our skyline since the early 1980s. But this is going to have a lot of Class A office space, over 1 million square feet, dining and fitness facilities, and it's something that I know our economic development people are anxious to add to our existing inventory. How many of you saw the GE logo go on the side of the GE building? Wasn't that impressive? One of the more iconic brands in the world, now emblazoned in an exciting project for Oklahoma City. This is 10,000 square feet, and it's an oil and gas innovation district, really. It's a research center that will allow some of the newest technology in the oil and gas sector to be created in Oklahoma City. Should be completed here in the mid part of this year. They're going to have test wells inside this facility, 20 inches in diameter, 400 feet deep. It has an outdoor laboratory area, and it's a great way for us to kind of kick off what we think is our reinvention of the Innovation District. We had always looked at the Innovation District in the past as a place where jobs were located, and I think futuristically we're going to start saying, well, how do we live, work, and play in the Innovation District? What do we do to make it more pedestrian friendly? What do we do to bring housing development and housing opportunities into the Innovation District? And so I think when we look back at Oklahoma City in 10 or 20 years, that's going to be one of the areas that is going to change the most dramatically. And I think we'll look back at GE's investment in Oklahoma City and say, that was really the catalyst for a lot of the new development that's taking place. We've already spent a lot of time in this, another picture of the GE Global Research Center. We spent quite a bit of time already today talking about the 21C, so I'm not going to expand on it too much, other than to, just to remind you that I think they're taking bookings from June 27th on. And so that's kind of an important date if you're the construction part of this equation. If they're going to have people staying here on June 27th, the place better be open. But the restaurant, the art that is going to take place in here is going to be transformational for Oklahoma City. And Mayor Fisher mentioned earlier that the art is a little bit edgy. I'm still concerned we're not ready for the edginess of the art, but stand by because it's coming whether we're ready or not. We also learned this week that the color of our penguin is going to be purple. Now, you may not think that's a big idea, but once you get inside of 21C and you see how many penguins are standing around waiting on you, you will understand totally. And every hotel in the 21C group does have a different color. The inside of a 21C room, and you see those are the windows, obviously, of the old Fred Jones Ford manufacturing plant. All right, the music venues that have come online have dramatically changed Oklahoma City. This is the Tower Theater on 23rd on the left side of your screen, the Criterion on the right. The Tower holds about 1,200 people. The Criterion holds 3,000 to 4,000, and as you know, it's already open. How many have been to an event at the Criterion already? Oh, come on. Clap if you've been there, because I can't necessarily see your line. Okay, well, then the rest of you need to go. I mean, this is an extraordinary addition to the cultural aspects of Oklahoma City and that part of Bricktown. And it has met or exceeded, I think, everyone's expectation. Far out north, Chisholm Creek. Several new businesses are opening up. Leases have been inked with Republic Gastropub, Fuzzy's Tacos, something called Yokozuna. Does anyone know what that is? Am I the only one that doesn't know? Sushi. Yokozuna Sushi. Jerky.com. Someone help me with that? Beef jerky. Okay. You didn't know we needed a beef jerky place. It's coming to Chisholm Creek. It's also going to have a nail salon, a day spa. You already know about Top Golf and the other developments that are coming here. Let's take another picture of Chisholm Creek. Mixed-use development that's coming. So this is a suburban development unlike many we've seen before. High-end opportunities to recreate and play, and we've spent a lot of time trying to create that type of environment downtown, and the success of that is now spilled over into this development, which is I know exciting a lot of people, and it sounds like from the type of tenants they're able to attract, it's going to get every one of us out there at one time or another. All right, here's the Steel Yard in Bricktown. This is a mixed-use development. Let's go far out northwest. This is the Paycom office expansion. Paycom is planning to hire 423 new workers. They're building a $14 million new building. They're also investing $2 million more on new equipment. And I talked before about, when the oil and gas industry has contracted here recently, we've heard about job layoffs. And what is not getting as much attention is the significant number of companies in Oklahoma City that are adding jobs. And it may be in smaller numbers, but it's a lot more companies. Paycom adding 423 new workers is just an example of that. Over in Automobile Alley, this is a mixed-use proposal at 12th and Broadway. Would be 5-story mixed use. This is an old service station on the north end of Automobile Alley, which continues to attract new development. On the northeast side of Oklahoma City at 36th and Kelly, this is the shopping center that is currently going under construction. It will have a grocery store and address one of the food deserts of our community, so we're especially excited about that. It's also a beneficiary of an exciting TIF project that we think is going to create a lot of new development along Northeast 36 and Northeast 23rd and other areas of Northeast Oklahoma City. All right, how many people have seen the Ferris wheel now that it's up? Isn't that cool? The Wheeler District is no longer now just a series of blueprints. You actually can see the Ferris wheel as it's been constructed on the south bank of the Oklahoma River. And you see the development that is planned, fully mixed-use retail development, unlike really anything else we have in the city's inventory today. And as the city continues to grow and prosper, and you can kind of sense the energy of core to shore and Capitol Hill expanding into this area. I was also just this past week at a ribbon cutting at Mount St. Mary's. Their first major construction project since the 1970s has now broken ground. And so you see a lot of new development coming to neighborhoods that haven't had a lot of new development. And boy, is this a great example of a very large project that will take on a part of the city that could really use some new investment. More pictures of the Wheeler District. Your favorite mayor watching the construction of the Ferris wheel out there before it was fully constructed. All right, let's move over now back over near the 21C. This is the residences that would be constructed as that part of the Film Row and continue the development along with 21C. You noticed, that as Mayor Fisher pointed out in Louisville, 21C likes to locate in areas and to be the first one in. And that kind of makes them unusual. They are risk takers. They don't mind being the catalyst for a part of your downtown business core that has been forgotten for a decade or two. And that's certainly the case here with the western part of downtown, but you can already see with Film Row coming on and this just around the corner, that the western part of downtown is developing, I think, at a much more rapid rate than anyone would have imagined. And it hadn't been that long ago that Chip Fudge showed his friend the properties he was buying, and the guy said, "Chip, you're the king of Skid Row. Congratulations." Well, in just a few short years, we have seen incredible improvement, and don't forget that the new boulevard is coming along that area as well, so it's only going to get better and better. More hotels are arriving in Bricktown. This is the Canopy Hotel. It's a new Hilton brand. If you haven't heard of it, that's because it is brand new, and they're building 11 right now. They've chosen 11 cities, and we're on a list that includes London, Washington, D.C., Portland, Charlotte, Indianapolis, San Diego, Miami, Savannah, and Ithaca, New York. And I'm told that this is similar to the Aloft or the Aloft, depending on how you want to pronounce it, but it's Hilton's version. And so it's a upper scale hotel that's coming into Bricktown, and obviously a very exciting project. Speaking of the western part of downtown, you have driven by this for a long, long time and wondered just how long ago was it that there was a Sunshine Cleaners inside that building? Well, it's going to be a brew pub before long. And again, this is taking downtown's westward expansion onto the west side of Classen. And you could kind of, picture that the Plaza District and Film Row could ultimately be very well connected, with Classen getting a makeover and expanding the bikeable corridor that I think Classen could become. I think it's a very exciting step forward, and you just like to see one development lead to the next. Here's another project that's way overdue, but very much appreciated: the Main Street Arcade renovation. Again, part of the western downtown expansion. This will be restaurants, retail, and office space. Out north at Memorial and MacArthur, This is called Threshold Climbing and Fitness, and will open in 2016. Again, adding to the quality of life in the community, a rock climbing facility, giving people one more thing to do, one more way to get hurt. I kid. We're not done in Deep Deuce, apparently. Another 97 units coming to the Mosaic Apartments. Can you imagine a few years ago the density that would be created in Deep Deuce? Obviously, another step in that transformation of downtown, and the idea, it wasn't that long ago that if you lived downtown, you were in jail. And now I live downtown, and I assure you I'm not in jail. All right, more apartments out at Chisholm Creek. This is 277 apartments out there. This is the Lift apartment building over on Chartel, 329 units. Again, a very urban design. This one kind of, last time I went by this, I'd kind of forgotten that the construction had started, and it kind of took me by surprise, because you come up on the traffic circle and it just kind of explodes into your view. But I sense that this is going to be a very popular place to stay. This is just west of St. Anthony's, and I would expect a lot of the employees at St. Anthony's that want a very quick walk to work will become tenants in this place. All right, the Metropolitan, 330 units here. This is right off I-235. You've no doubt seen this, might have wondered what it was, but this is just to the north of Deep Deuce. And here's the Civic Center Flats, 32 units that are just to the north of the Civic Center Music Hall. And there's other projects we could have mentioned, and there's probably another one going to be announced tomorrow. So, I don't want to be the guy that stands up here and tries to convince you something that isn't true. I mean, if doggone it, if you're going to be depressed about the oil and gas industry, go ahead. But I can't look around this city and tell you that it feels anything like the previous dips in the oil and gas economy. This really does feel different, and it's in large part a measure to your continued commitment to this city. What the half a generation leadership did back in the early 1990s that has kind of set the trajectory that we're still on today, has set in motion a spirit that doesn't seem to be slowing down. And I'll remind you that we still have one of the lowest unemployment rates in the country, and that whenever a magazine or a website wants to rank something, it almost seems like we make a list every time. So sometimes it's hard to appreciate what's in your own backyard. But I can assure you there's a lot of people in a lot of cities around the country that want to be us. So pat yourself on the back. All right, we're going to transition now to one of my favorite parts of the day, and this is when we award the Mayor's Award for Outstanding Development. And, through the years, we have honored, the types of development that we thought were, transformational in their own way. Oklahoma City University's Law School, for example. The Plaza District. Midtown's District. The Devon Energy Tower. The Chesapeake Energy Campus. The Presbyterian Health Foundation. The Bricktown property owners and the merchants that have made Bricktown into what it is today. I think our very first one was about 10 years ago, and we honored the Skirvin Hotel. One of the most complex redevelopment efforts this city has ever taken on. And I remember at the time, I was trying to talk about the renaissance of Oklahoma City, knowing that we had a huge boarded up hotel downtown. And thinking, that's just a little bit hollow. when you have your old historic hotel and we haven't been able to find a use for it. So don't ever take the Skirvin Hotel for granted. But it is my pleasure now to announce the 2016 award winner. And this is for the outstanding development, and we had a lot of things to consider, a lot of different nominations coming into us. But I am pleased to announce that we are presenting this award to the Uptown 23rd Street District Association. Let me read a little bit about it. Under the shadow of the state capitol complex has grown a grassroots effort to make critical and effective change in one of Oklahoma City's most historic districts. Northwest 23rd Street was the place that most Oklahoma City residents went to shop. The corridor was lined with drugstores and dress shops and doctor's offices and banks, shops for special occasions and everyday needs. Northwest 23rd Street was a booming street that strategically created a northern border to Heritage Hills, Mesta Park, and Gatewoods. It also was a direct path to the Oklahoma City Capitol complex. It was part of the historic Route 66. Northwest 23rd Street was a collection of iconic buildings curated to showcase the golden era of Art Deco and mid-century modern architecture and design. But as the major shopping destination of the first half of the 20th century, 23rd Street soon fell under disrepair. More and more Oklahomans took up residence in the far suburbs of Oklahoma City. The resurgence began back in the 1990s when the historic light poles and medians were placed between Hudson and Dewey on Northwest 23rd. By this time, the tenants were mostly discount shops. Even the lights of the Tower Theater had burned out years earlier. In 2011, the Uptown 23rd District Association officially began. A group of concerned and creative business and property owners gathered. They discussed their concerns and their wishes of what Northwest 23rd Street could become. Stretching from 23rd and Broadway, then west to Penn, Uptown 23rd encompasses bars, restaurants, architectural firms, law offices, retail shops, neighborhoods, and of course, the landmark Tower Theater. Don't forget the Gold Dome, the Milk Bottle Building, and Oklahoma City University. Today, these conversations have become what is now the Uptown 23rd District Association. They have over 100 members. They have 3 on staff. They have monthly and annual events, and they have even bigger plans for the future. Without the time, energy, and investment of Byron's Liquor, a Good Egg Dining Group, a Pivot Project, Oklahoma City University, and others, Uptown 23rd would not be a district on the rise. Recent developments of the Mesta Building, the rise at 23rd and Walker, and renovations to the Tower Theater and surrounding units have paved the way for future developments and renovations to the district's iconic Milk Bottle Building, the Gold Dome, and additional upcoming projects along the Northwest 23rd Street corridor. We want to thank the Commercial Real Estate Council for sponsoring the fabrication of the award. So let's a round of applause for the Commercial Real Estate Council. Please join me in recognizing Uptown 23rd Street District Association accepting the award, the Executive Director, Christina Chikaraski. Christina, come on up. Where is it? All right, here she is with an award too big to carry. Christina.
Thank you. It is such a pleasure to be here, and the good thing about public speaking and events like this is the lights are so bright that it's like I'm talking to a dark room. So, good thing it doesn't make me that nervous. But thank you, Mayor Cornett, for this prestigious award. We're really excited to take this back and place it in our offices on Northwest 21st Street. And really, Uptown 23rd District Association embodies everything that is part of our membership and our neighbors. And we really could not be here today if it were not for the important role as part of the commercial district revitalization program through the City of Oklahoma City, the City Planning Office that has helped us so much, not only financially, but sometimes for me emotionally. And it really is a great service that you guys provide, and it really is connecting all of the dots.